Another day, another music headline that makes my eyes almost roll backwards and out of my skull entirely. Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. My name is John, and I guess this is an installment of News It or Lose It, although I definitely have more of my own opinions and thoughts that I want to share. Mick Jagger is in the news, the iconic frontman of the Rolling Stones, an iconic rock and roll band, one of the first that really broke out in the British invasion. It was the Stones versus the Beatles. And while I was always a Beatles guy out of those two, I don't mind the Stones, but I've never considered myself a huge fan, and I've just never really thought like they were that great live that people shell out like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But that is not the point here. Mick Jagger did an interview as he was talking about an upcoming Stones tour, how he doesn't want it to be their last, he doesn't see it being their last, and how he's still going despite being 78 years old. The loss of their drummer Charlie Watts last year was definitely extremely sad. But the Stones are another one of those bands where I just truly wish they would hang it up, but no, another tour, another tour, another tour. During his stop at that Swedish radio station, he talked about the so-called saviors of rock and roll. Not his words exactly, but he talked about who is bringing life to rock music, because apparently for quite some time, he, like many others, don't do any sort of digging whatsoever, and they just assume because they don't see it on a Billboard chart or the official UK charts that I guess it doesn't exist. Those of us in the know, of course, realize that that's not the case at all. In the UK alone, the rock scene, the indie scene has been thriving, and did Mick Jagger take some time out to call out some rising stars in the scene, talk about some post-punk music that he's loving? No, he actually praised fucking Machine Gun Kelly and YUNGBLUD as the future of rock. The 78-year-old singer said, "In rock music, you need energy, and there have not been a lot of new rock singers around. Now there are a few, even though there have been literally thousands, but that's fine. Just because they didn't get mainstream coverage, possibly that means they don't matter, they're irrelevant, they don't exist, and the genre's dead." He went on to say, "You have YUNGBLUD in Machine Gun Kelly. That kind of post-punk vibe makes me think there is still a bit of life in rock and roll." I get this really weird but hilariously out-of-touch picture of Jagger walking into a record store and seeing these very flamboyant covers where Machine Gun Kelly is holding a guitar because he makes rock music now and he has to let you know that by the album cover for every album where he's making rock music. Jagger picks it up and says, "You know what? I see some life in this. This is the only thing that's gonna hold down the fort for rock." I don't mean entirely to lump YUNGBLUD in, at least not as much as MGK, but still I definitely have a lot of gripes with him, and I definitely don't see YUNGBLUD as being the future of rock and roll music, because again, it's more borrowing instead of thinking forward. But I can only imagine Jagger just sitting around saying this and thinking that this is the future of rock. This is the life breath of rock and roll music for the next century. Looking to them as the future of rock and roll music is like looking at a flaccid penis that's been chopped up in a brutal wood chipping accident and saying, "That's a full erection right there, I'm gonna go with that one." I'm so sorry for that terrible mental image, but I just had to find a way to get across how out of touch and inconclusive these comments feel. I mean, he goes on to say that there's a post-punk vibe to the music. A post-punk vibe. Has anybody here listened to YUNGBLUD or Machine Gun Kelly? Would any one of you use the term or the genre tag post-punk to describe them? Jagger, are you kidding me, man? Like off the top of my head, post-punk in the UK, over across the pond where you're from, off the top of my head, I think Black Country New Road, I think Squid, Shame, and just this year I discovered Yard Act. There are so many exciting bands in the post-punk movement in the UK, and you've called out Machine Gun Kelly as having a post-punk vibe? My good knighted sir, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Please, kindly do not interject into a scene of which you know nothing, because it seems very clear that he has picked up a couple of albums that his goddaughter, his niece, his great-granddaughter, whoever the hell it is, has handed him some of their music, and he said, "Huh, that's got a guitar in it, and kids are listening to it. This is the future." This is the part where I cut off my rant, because while I don't think it's worth losing sleep over and getting irrationally mad, it definitely strikes a nerve and gets under my skin, and I find it kind of laughably funny at the same time, just to see him shouting picking those two out specifically. Some of the ones that I see is so plastic, like you could have picked anybody under the sun. There's a lot of people doing guitar-driven stuff right now and being successful with it, but apparently those are the torch carriers for Jagger. Tell me your thoughts on this wild tangent that Mick Jagger went on in the comments section down below. While you're down there, hit that like button and check out some recent news videos that I covered on screen right now. Make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications so you don't miss out when I post, and other than that, I'll be back soon with more on Beyond ARTV.